but still.
I do 12 sticks at a time and on mine and I've got $7
Okay,
in everything.
cause I'm like.
Yeah, I don't know. They were very low, let's put it that way. Well, it's cold, it was warm, and we all were thinking that we might have an early spring. Let's get into this tonight. Got a number of things that I'm gonna help you with. We're gonna be talking about a number of events that are upcoming, and you want to be a part. Also get you prepared for spring, what you need to be doing right now. If you have bees, if you still have bees, that there's some very specific things you should be doing. And if you haven't, then and it's gonna be hard because we got a week of cold weather. I think there's only one day the next week that's gonna be around 50 degrees. And so I'm gonna seize that opportunity if you can. If you haven't been able to check on your hives. But anyway, as we'll start with our treasurer and our secretary, whichever one wants to go.
There are many. So for our Alpine bank account, we have $3,685.22. PayPal, we have $937.79, totaling $4,622.54. So just a reminder that we are in our due season. So if you haven't filled out an application, we have some over here, and individual memberships are 25 and a family is 40.
And remember, if you do sign up before the end of March, that membership also includes membership to the CSPA. And there will be a meeting there. I'll be talking about a meeting here pretty soon that's coming up in June.
Did anybody get the state newsletter?
Yeah, I did.
Was our member or was our thing on there?
Yeah, it was all the way at the very bottom.
Oh. Okay. So just a reminder that if you get the state newsletter, to look through it. Our club is featured on the newsletter. On the February one.
It's been a couple days.
Hey, our events coordinator, Molly.
Okay, well, let's talk about the Honeybee Festival. We have, it's gonna be a little bit different. The reception this year is gonna be at the Meadery. It's gonna be a bigger space. It's gonna be a lot more inviting than what we've had in the past. Which is a really good thing. The timing for that is it's gonna run from 5 to 8 on the 11th.
That's the day before the festival. That's the reception for anybody who's a vendor or anybody that wants to come.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Okay.
It's a fun time.
Right?
So if you would like to be a vendor for the the International Honeybee Festival, then when do you need to sign up? Like yesterday?
So you can go online.
You can go online onto our website, and it's easy. It's a very straightforward system.
So what's the website?
If you just Google Palisade Honeybee Festival, the website just comes up.
Comes right up.
So the event is on Saturday, April the 12th.
This is gonna happen obviously in Palisade, 10 to 4. Obviously, we're gonna have lots of vendors. Already people are signing up. Some of the vendors are like, Michelle's monitoring it and is like, oh, we're getting pretty full already.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. I hope.
It'll be similar to last year where there's the Queen Bees are playing live music there. They've got some other people coming in and doing music. They're doing the spelling bee for the students. And so we have a teacher that's in charge of that. And so
It's going really well.
yeah, there's a costume contest. So dress in your best costume. Yeah, hopefully the weather's great like it was last year. And then our group has a booth, is that right?
Yes.
Right, so our group has a booth, and so at that booth, if you have any honey left that you want to sell and you want to work the booth for a while, you can bring your honey and sell it, and then it's not taxed because we are a nonprofit. And so you're able to do that, and that's been successful. I mean, you had a lot of success last year. So usually, we're able to accommodate like 2 or 3 vendor within our group at a time. So if all of you did it, of course, our little table would be too full, right? And so, yeah, so if you're interested in doing that, you just contact us, so we kind of have an idea of how many of you still have honey left, how many of you have honey left. Yeah, we do too.
We do too.
Yeah, so that looks like there could be 4 or 5 of us, but that's a way for you guys to be able to do it. Yeah, so, okay, great.
And Tracy is the one that runs the booth, our vice president, so he'll coordinate the who, the when. And if we have too many, they can just jump over online. Okay,
Jason has really fancy bottles and he sells out and he has a great display and he's hard to sit next to.
so anything else?
No, I think that's just kind of our update right now. You know, we're just hoping lots of people come and I think that it's really important that when we're wrapping up at the end of the festival, that we make sure that the city of Palisade has nothing negative to say, like not a piece of trash, kind of a thing.
Last year, 4,000 people attended, so
Yeah.
it's kind of the first event in our valley when the weather's turned in the spring.
Who has not been to the Palisade Honeybee Festival in April? And you gotta go. It's really neat. It's a lot of vendors, a lot of everything honeybee, so.
A lot of families come, a lot of camaraderie, you meet new people, you know, it's a great event.
Vice President, Trace?
Couple things. This coming Monday, the 17th, is the Delta Beekeepers Club meeting in Delta. If you're interested in coming, we'd like to have you. There's a couple of our members that do come. If you'd like to come, just get with me. I'll give you the time and all that, the directions. It's pretty easy. It's a lot smaller group and it's a lot more informal. It's not a state sanctioned bee club. We just all get together and talk about our bees. The other thing is anybody in here planning on going to the State Bee Association meeting in June? It's in Rifle. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, just wanted to get a count, that's all.
What's the date, Tracy?
I'm not really sure. It's in the middle of June. I don't have it.
I got it, yeah.
At my fingertips.
I got it.
Doug's gonna
Give her-
jump on that.
So since everybody's on that one, it's June 13th and 14th. Well, June 13th is like a meet and greet in the evening. The actual event is on the 14th. If you go on to CSBA's website, they have the tentative schedule out there. We were contacted by Kathy Gill, the president, that said, since we are the biggest, closest club, if we would be willing to volunteer to go out there and help set up, tear down, maybe do some food, serving. So Tracy has said he's gonna be there, so he's gonna kind of try to coordinate to find out exactly what they need to do. So if you're interested in helping, talk with Tracy, get on the list. They also said we could bring our banner out there and advertise about us, since if you kind of watch most of the stuff that happens with CSBA, since we were recently joining, everything seems to be pretty well front range focus. Because on the Western Slope, there's basically 2 big clubs. There's us and there's Four Corners. And then that's it. So if we can kind of get our name out there and get it sent, the reason we got featured this month as a thing is because of the stuff that we are doing. We're one of the only clubs that does Zoom and the records it and lets everybody see it. They thought that was very impressive, that we are here for education first and all this stuff second. So, and then as for the media officer stuff, I've revamped the website again. I've moved some stuff around. If you got some pictures and stuff, you look at some of the pictures on there, they're 10, 15 years old. Getting tired of looking at pink hives. So give me some better pictures besides these pink hives. So get them up there. If you see something that's on the website, you think you've got a better picture for, email it to the club, tag it, say, hey, I think this would be good here. If there's something that it's not on the website that you think we should have some pictures of, get them out there. Also remember, we've also got the new section on the website of the the finds of the month. So if you come across something new, let me know, and once a month I'll update that. You know, it could be a website, YouTube video, I put a podcast up there. One of the speakers that's going to be at the the summer meeting is Dr. Jamie Ellis from the Florida State Entomology. He's the head down there. He does a podcast called Bees in a Podcast. Lots and lots of good information. Last year, they literally went month by month. A little Florida centric, but again, it gives you things like, this is what you should be doing this month. So, you know, they come up and they always have guest speakers that are coming up with new and different things, so.
Yeah, Jamie Ellis is one of the foremost authorities in entomology especially when it comes to bees, honeybees. So it'd be worth your time traveling over and spending it's a Saturday, I believe.
Yeah, so there's a meet and greet on Friday, and then looking at their tentative schedule, there is meetings called to order in the morning. He's the keynote speaker. There's a break. There's another speaker that's gonna come in. They're gonna then break for lunch. And then after that, there's 4 sessions out in a local beekeeper's yard out there in, and so, yeah, I think it's the same one that's been in the last couple of years. So you get to do some hands-on stuff. So if you're going, bring your PPE. So.
And this is only the second year we've been with the Colorado State Bee Association. Before that, we weren't. We were just an independent club out here, but there's a lot of benefits, and I'm glad that we did it.
So then one of the other benefits that we've done the request for the road shows. One of the benefits is we can get the presentation people from the Front Range to come over and talk to us. We did that the very first year. A gentleman named Dan came over. And so we got to see the difference on what they do on the Front Range versus what we do over here.
We had 2, because KT came also.
That's right, KT came over that, so we'll probably look and see if we can get somebody else to come over sometime this year to give us a talk. On that one. Something else. Remember what it was? Oh, I know what it is. Forms. Everybody's asking about them. I've got most of them built, so get ready to watch the newsletter. Use the links to sign up for this form list, the member directory. If you're looking for, you've got a bunch of extra hives this year. Every so often during the summer, I'll get emails or phone calls from the public saying, hey, I just bought an orchard. I want bees. So if I have that list, I can kind of connect you guys together. So that'll look for those links coming out here in the newsletter. So should be ready to go. Q&A meeting. I was going to wait till March, but Tracy and I were talking about it. A lot of new people. Things seem to be starting a little early, so we're actually going to start up the Q&A in 2 weeks. So it'll be the 4th Thursday. It's 100% Zoom meeting. The link to that Zoom meeting will be in the newsletter, on the calendar on the website, and I'll throw it out on Facebook usually about a week ahead of time. So, ready to watch for that. So that one's just, there's no structure to that. It's just we all get on and we ask questions and we bounce things back and forth. And sometimes it's one of those things you ask a question and you get 10 different answers sometimes. But the nice thing about that is, again, it's open to the public. So we have had people on there down in Trinidad. I've had people in Fort Collins jump in on it. I've had people down in the Four Corners jump on. So it's kind of another way for us to get a little more perspective on what's going on out there. So, okay, so email me lots of pictures, please. Updates. And let me know if there's anything you think I should add to the website.
Bee related, please.
Yeah, be related.
Pictures of my house.
Spam them with your. So a really good app that I use is called Picture This. And the great thing about this, you take a picture of the plant and it will identify it and give you locations. In other words, how many knew that we have Missouri evening primrose, aspen fleabane, Sergo lily, California falls hellebore, elkweed, early saxifrage, sagebrush, buttercup, greater creeping spearwort, western spring beauty, hairy falls. I'm giving you plants that grow honey in this area. All that, and it goes on and on and on. I have probably 50, 60 different plants and it tells me what it is. So if I forget, I can look back and say, yeah, that's good. Or, well, I notice is that when the bees are working it and they're bringing, and a lot of that's spring flowers. And that's what we're gonna hit next is working on early springtime beekeeping. Does everybody else? Unless there's anything else, you got anything else, Doug? Good.
Yes, 2 weeks.
So that little app is called Picture This. It's pretty cool. Okay. Y'all see that, or do we need to turn the light off? Y'all good back there? Okay, early spring beekeeping. What are you needing to do right now? We had a couple of warm weeks. What I do know is your bees are foraging, they're bringing in pollen. I have the few that I left here, and the reason I leave a number of beehives here is because they won't make the trip. They'll overwinter here. Some of them were just, a couple of them were just one framers, one frame of bees. I figured, well, they might as well just die here. And I cracked the lid and I got, one of them's got 3 frames of bees and the other one's got 5 frames of bees. So them girls been busy and they're building up already. So that tells me it's gonna be an early spring. And so how many have seen activity? Lots of activity. Okay. I had somebody in the bee club send me a picture and she said, why would they be working chicken feed? Because she had a bunch of bees working her chicken feed. Well, they're after the protein because they're brooding. That's the only reason they'd be on the chicken feed is they're looking for protein. And if they can't get enough coming in with pollen, and they are, because there's dandelions already blooming on the warm side of houses and buildings. And so pollen is coming in very sporadically. And here's the problem, they're getting lots of pollen, but very little nectar. So what happens is to supplement the nectar side of the feed, when that bee is producing that royal gel, the bee food in the hypopharyngeal gland in her crop, she has to have the protein, that's what the pollen is, and the nectar. But if they don't have nectar, then they're using their honey stores. They're using their honey stores, your bees are getting light. And this is really early for that to be happening. A lot of times the real worry is in March, but I would be willing to say we have some warm weather coming in a week. This week is going to be cold. A week from now, it warms back up in 60. I've seen some 64s, and that is going to start. The world is going to be blooming early, really too early. So we're going to talk about what you need to do to be good with that. So early forage, they're like I said, dandelions, and that's one of the first things. Another thing that is an early forage for pollen side of the equation is the globe willow. Globe willow is a great pollen source, and they're already starting to green up in different lower parts of the valley, especially towards Palisade. So Palisade is the warm area, and that's kind of the indicative barometer, if you would, in the terra flora. And so that's already happening. And even though, and you think, well, they're doing the cleansing flights, they've done that, but they are building up. So I'm hungry, please plant flowers there. You've got some bees that be looking for some food. Here's the issue. If you're burning through your stores, you need to make sure that you check your hives. We've talked about this a few times. And the best way to check a beehive, again, is by lifting it up. You don't have to pick it all the way up. And I would show you with the other deep, but it's clean the projector. So you got, and if you remember what it weighed, and this is hard because you haven't been lifting hives in 4 or 5 months. But if it feels really light, and you just have to lever it up. You crack it from the bottom, and some of you, your bottom board is connected, so it doesn't matter, but if you lift that whole thing up and it feels relatively light to you, the chances are, this is without cracking the lid. You can do that and check the weight. Now, pick that thing up, it feels like a brick, well, you're probably all right. You really don't have to dig into it. But if it feels light, then we call, we start talking about emergency feeding. We have to do some emergency feeding. And the issue is digging into them when the temperature is below 50 degrees. It's detrimental. It's really hard on them. Because they break cluster. In other words, your bees are clustered up until about 45, 50 degrees. And it depends on the sun. If it's full sun and the sun is shining, it might be 50 degrees ambient temperature, but that hive is already at 60 because of the radiant heat that is cooking them. So and inside, they've already broke cluster. And when they break cluster, they use a lot more food. They go through their stores. They start eating honey when they break cluster because they're starting to fly. They're foraging. And there's might not be much out there, but they're sending them out anyway because it's warm. And that's trigger that goes off. Now the queen will also start laying eggs. There's a couple things that trigger the queen for her to start laying. One of those things is pollen. When pollen comes in the front door, she will begin to lay. And they will allow her to. And so she starts firing up and depends on how big the colony is. Now, some of you have a smaller colony, you overwintered with a smaller colony, you are in better shape than those of you that these monsters. And you're thinking, man, I'm in really good shape because I had a big beehive, 8 to 10 frames of bees. Right now, you know, they're moving a lot. Problem with that is more mouths eat more food. And so you have a greater chance of starving to death with a bigger hive than you do a smaller hive. So, and that's so you got to know what's going on. And the only way you really know what's going on is you got to open it up and look. And so again, magic temperature, I would wait till that next, unless it's really light. If it's, you lift it up and it's really, really light, then it's time to do something right now. There's a couple of things that you can do some emergency feeding. We're going to talk about the different, all the different ways to feed them. Emergency feeding we do, we see up here that some use a chicken feeder. Now, this time of year, and I'd say as it warms up, especially 60 degrees, they'll take the liquid and it helps them a lot quicker. When we're building bees in California in December, it's all liquid. We use a product called ProSweet. ProSweet is a Man Lake product. It's not just sugar. It also has a complete spectrum of what they did is they broke down the actual nectar that is derived from flowers, and then they've added all your trace elements and trace minerals, and to try to mimic that the best they can. That's why it costs a little bit more. But the only way you're going to get ProSweet is you got to order it, and that's a Man Lake product. And so the next best case scenario is a 2-to-1. I would, this time of year, if it's still cold, 2-to-1, and 2 parts sugar, 1 part water. That's when we say 2-to-1, 2 parts sugar, 1 part water. As it warms up, I would move into a 1.5 part sugar, 1 part water. I would cut that sugar down, make it a little bit more liquid, and it helps them take it. They'll feed it real quick. So you have a, like I said, chicken feeder, but around the trough here, you don't want to leave that just open. You want to put either pebbles so they don't drown, or some hard wire cloth, some kind of mesh, straw will work. Some people use, they'll get a big tote. They'll cut holes in the side of the tote near the top, put the lid on. That way you don't have critters getting in there, they'll dump their syrup or sugar water in that tote and then put straw. So the bees find it, they fly in and they'll drink that down. They won't drown in the straw. They'll just clean that all up. And so if you got a lot of bees, that's for an open feeding. So this is open feeding. That means the bees fly out of their hive. And they'll do that if you have anything over 50 degrees. Anything over 50 degrees, they will feed outside the hive. This is a frame feeder, and that is inside the hive. So it just and that's what we use it pretty much exclusively. We have it's moving to the buckets, but that frame feeder, this is a 1 gallon. You set it inside the hive. It won't get cold because the bees will keep it warm, so it won't freeze. It's readily available. They don't have to leave the hive. A hungry, strong hive will drain that in a day. One day, 1 gallon will be gone. And especially if they're near starvation. The other one is an entrance feeder. Some of you have those little entrance feeders. And then the bucket. Now don't just dump any bucket on there, okay? The bucket has a very specific lid that has diameter of holes that do not allow that bucket to drain unless it creates a vacuum. And the only way that it continues to drip is the bees will suck it off of that plug. So there's a plug in the underside. I should have shown you that, but anyway, you can buy these very specifically at Man Lake, okay, or Daydent. You can buy that feeder, and it's either 1 gallon or 2 gallon. Yeah.
So it looks like the top lid's actually not on there, and so is that something you only do during the day or?
No,
like,
see, well, what they have done, they took the inner cover.
right,
Okay, then they'll put an empty box on top of that, and then the lid will be up here. So they'll put an empty frame or an empty.
God,
And
so your
rim
bucket's
around-
not very tall.
Yeah, so a lot of times that is not taller. The shorter ones are okay. If not, then
It's not a 5 gallon.
we have lids now. Commercial guys, with commercial guys, they just cut holes in their lid, so their lid will have a hole in the middle of it. And then they'll plug, when they're not using the bucket feeder, they'll plug it with a plug. Anyway, so the feeding is going to be very, very important. I would suggest that you make sure, because you did well. Man, you kept your mite count low. They were good looking bees. They went into winter strong, and then all to get them to this time of the year and they starved to death. It's a heartbreaker. And how you know they have starved to death? Well, when you pull that frame out, usually in the middle, I don't have any drawn comb, but if this was drawn comb, that bee is going to be head first inside the combs, inside that cell, with their tail sticking out, and they'll be in a circle. They'll just be a whole bunch of, and that's called a heater. What they're doing is a heater bee, and what they have done is they use their wing muscles to vibrate throughout their head, and that heat is directed forward. And so they are in that cell vibrating, pushing heat towards the cluster. That's how they generate heat. So that heater bee, if that's what you've seen when you do, if you did starve to death or something happened, that the bees that's the last ditch effort to try to hang on and keep everybody warm. If you got some cold temperatures, if you only have 1 or 2 frames left of bees, what I mean by what is 1 frame of bee? When you pull out a frame, you got bees that are on this side and on this side. So it's not just one side of the frame. On the both sides of the frame, that's 1 frame of bees. And if that's all you have, a 20 degree or less will usually do them in. They don't have enough numbers to keep themselves warm enough to make it. So just understand that. But if usually right now you're down to 4 or 5 frames, pretty much 4.5 frames, that's perfect. That's good. Those of you that have 10 frames of bees, them girls are hungry, okay? They've burned through their stores and they're ramping up. They've already been out, they're bringing in pollen. And the queen is mating, or the queen is laying eggs and they're already got, I would say that some of you probably, and you don't even know it, you got cat brood. I mean, I do, I got cat brood in mine, that I went winter here and I was surprised. We've had enough warm and they have enough. And it's those two things. If you got pollen coming in the front door, they're gonna start brooding. And if you got enough numbers to cover, when I say when they have cover, what that means is they have enough bees to be able to feed the larva and to keep it warm, especially through that larval stage. Now, when it comes to pupa stage, that means it's capped and becomes pupa, then they can take a little bit more cold. But the larval stage is, you gotta have a lot of bees to cover that. And so those of you that with big beehives, you have cap brood right now. That's awesome, because we're gonna talk about how to capture the spring flow. Now, any questions before we move on feeders? Yeah.
My favorite way to emergency feed is do something like this. You put your inner cover, okay, so your inner cover is right here. Then you take a box with no frames and put on there. And you can go get a 5-pound bag of sugar and dump it around the outside. It's still got the center hole. When it gets to 50 degrees, they'll come up and they'll eat that sugar. So it's a good emergency feed. It's cheap, it's quick, it's easy. How much does a 10-pound bag of sugar cost? It does 2 hives. The other nice thing about that is you come back next week and all that sugar's still there. You know they have enough feed down here because they're going to eat what they got first. And then if they run out, they'll come up and eat the sugar, okay? You open it up the next week and all that sugar's gone, you got a hungry hive and you better do something. You better replace that sugar or go to a 2-to-1, put a feeder on it, do something. Because if they've eaten that sugar, they're hungry. It's just quick and easy. If you've only got a few frames like us, like most of us, it's real easy.
This time of year with the sugar, you also make sure they got water. Because it's very hard for them to break down solid sugar. And then to put it into bee food. So make sure they got a water source as well.
You take your quilt box off, too? I mean, is the quilt box already off? When you're doing that, if you've got that extra box on
You can either take it off or you can just put that, your quilt box on top of this. The big thing is that your inner cover is here and the hole is here and the sugar is right there. And then you can do whatever you want after that.
And it's important, yeah, make sure you don't dump sugar on open frames. If you dump sugar, what's gonna happen is those granules of sugar drop down in on the comb. And if there's larvae already started in that comb, you've just contaminated it and they will kill that larvae. They'll pull it out. So if you dump sugar down straight in on the brood nest, then you have just set them back. Oh, because that just contaminated the whole brood nest. That's not capped. Anything that's not capped.
Another thing I've seen some people do, and I didn't have any luck with this, but they took drawn comb. They sprinkled the granulated sugar inside of the comb, spritzed it with some water, and then let it dry where it crusted. And then they went and put this back in their hive and the bees ate it. That's another thing you can do. Sometimes, and I had bad luck with this, other people didn't. They see that as foreign and then they propolis over it. So
Yeah.
that's just, but that happens very, very infrequently. If they're hungry, they're going to eat that sugar.
Emergency feeding, this time of year, you're pushing into especially you get into the 60 degrees, it's always better with liquid. 60-degree weather, they're gonna use it and they need it right now. And so and they're feeding brood. And so that's why, that 2.5 to 1, it's reflective of nectar. And that's what they're looking for. They don't have to break it down. They don't have to reconcentrate it. So, and especially pushing, I'm looking out 15 days out, we're into the 64, 65s. You can see it in those on the high temperature, the lows are above freezing. And so it's game on then. Yeah.
So if you have a candy board on,
Yeah.
do we take that off?
If you got a candy board, leave it on because they'll eat that. If they're hungry enough, they're gonna, so
Taking stuff out the front door.
they're
They've been kicking some of it out.
The sugar out the front door?
Yeah, some
Then
of
they're
it.
not hungry, then they're not hungry.
Not just big.
What I said to do with the granulated sugar is basically a poor man's candy bar,
Okay,
is what it is.
Yeah, it's, you know, and that is better than nothing. See, we're talking about emergency feeding. Anything's better than nothing if you're just gonna, but make sure you don't dump sugar straight into the open. If you don't have an inner cover, you can get some wax paper. Put wax paper over the top and then put your sugar on top of the wax paper. If you don't have an inner cover. And that's the easiest, that's the quickest. And that'll stave them off but again, it's much more difficult. When we're building bees, and we build them by the millions, we always use liquid, even in cold temperatures, because that's the quickest, the fastest, and it makes an immediate difference. So there's some supplements that go with that. This is the Pro Suite I was talking about. They sell it in the gallon. We buy it by the 250 gallon totes, by the semi-load. This is, and it has all the trace elements. It has really this. We've done our own sugar before by the pallet fulls, you know, but Pro Suite, it is a little bit more, but it's worth it, worth the money. Here's Ultra B. This is the dry powder. Now we're going to talk, before we get into the pollen patties, let me talk to you a little bit about the Complete. This Complete, there's a lot of bee supplements out there. Complete takes care of so many issues. Gut health, early spring issues, nose bit is in there, so it helps with any kind of dysentery. And early buildup when there's mold issues, and because overwintering, there's going to be mold issues, and that just helps the gut health along those lines. So this is a product we use. We've used it for many, many years. So, but anything, we also talk about Mellifera Boost, giving you, and one of the biggest things that hit the market is that really has made a game changer when dealing with honeybee health is gut health, and there have been some advances in gut health, and there are a number of things on the market. Anyway, do you want to capture the spring flow? Nod your head, yes. I mean, do you? Who got bees? Raise your hand. You got bees? Okay. I hung on to a bucket, and I've got jars. Spring flow that I caught. This will be the 10th year, 10 years ago. It is the lightest color of honey that you'll find, has not yet crystallized. Really low, see the two sugar spectrums of the fructose and the glucose, and the spring flow is higher in the fructose. I believe that's the way it goes. And the fructose content, if it's higher, doesn't crystallize as quick as easy. This is some of the best tasting honey, and it's the spring flow. It's really hard to capture. Like 10 years ago, everything was perfect. The weather was great. And some of those flowers I just read off, there's so many more. That's all spring flow. You want it, the only way you're going to capture the spring flow is you got to have bees that are ready to capture the spring flow. We do the same thing in California as a commercial beekeeper, and what we do is we got to be ready for pollination. We have to have full strength hives right now. So we start in November, and what we do, and so if you want to start right now and I'm going to give you some trade secrets if you want it. If you don't, well, we'll just move on. But if you want to know how to build a beehive so you catch a spring flow? I don't know. Maybe. Does it work? Yeah, but for those of you that are into that and you really want to turn it's like flipping a switch, and that queen is going to go bonkers, and your bees are going to cover, and by middle end of March, you're going to have full strength hive. Better be ready to split them or do something. We'll talk about that. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know and if they follow the recommendations and that complete would be all right with the patty, and that would save you buying it. That's also the same with when they had the rocket fuel, and we're gonna talk about that in a minute. So, this is what she was saying. This is a global patty. Global is there's many different manufacturers of the pollen patty. We use global 15% raw pollen that's in that patty. And so right now, if you want to build, right now is the time to put it on. Right now. So if you have it, or you can want to order. I didn't have any. I wish I would. We have a pallet of it in California. I was going to bring some home. Sorry, I didn't. But they'll get it to you pretty quick. So, and it's just, they're 1 pound patties. You put them on top of the frames. You put them right in the center, right on the middle. What that does, because they need the protein and they need the nectar, or they need the carbohydrate. Those two things added together, and then they begin to brood. It doesn't matter what the temperature is outside. You have those two things, and that's why we use frame feeder, because then they have it inside. You don't have to leave the hive, and it's warm. They keep it warm. And so, best case scenario, temperatures can drop. It's stormy, doesn't matter. They're still doing their thing inside the colony, inside the hive. So they have pollen patty. They don't have to go get it, and they have the nectar or the sugar.
But then you say they can empty that in one day, so then tomorrow.
A full strength hive, yeah, I've seen them do in one day. That's gone. But we'll check it. We'll check it every week.
Okay,
So we don't go back, but
okay,
1 gallon. Let's say you have 8 frame or 10 frame colony, 8 frame colony, really strong. 1 gallon will carry them a week.
They'll eat it down in a day, but that's not saying tomorrow they're hungry. They'll eat it. They got really big honey crops. They'll also go and move it into the comb.
Yep,
Like they
that's what
do
they're doing.
nectar.
They're storing it.
okay. All right, so it's not like I have to go in every day and. try
Oh,
to
no,
fill
no,
it back up.
no.
Okay.
But a good barometer of how much you should feed, you feed them till they won't take anymore. So, but we don't do that, but I mean, the backyard beekeeper can afford to do that. I can't. But you, again, ProSweet, if you want to do that, those two things there. And then what we do, we'll throw out some Ultra Bee, because it is in a powder form. And we'll put that outside the hive. And it's like crack for bees. They go get that stuff and then roll in it and bring it in by the time. It's and again, that's trace elements. There is so much science that have gone into these supplements. It's really phenomenal what they've done this last few years. Yeah. This here, when I put that outside, it's separate from that altogether. There is very specific feeders for the Ultra Bee. What I've done in the past, I'll get a 3-inch pipe, a plastic sewer pipe, new. And there are very specific ends that you can get that look round, but part of it is a square. So it's not all capped off. I think it's like
Better.
it's a gutter. It's not a clean out. It's a gutter end. And so part of it's a square. And I wish I had a picture of that. And we just pull the end off and dump that Ultra Bee in there. That way, moisture doesn't get to it. You can leave it out there for a while. Well, what we've done, I would just get a lid and I'll just we'll cut the bag actually, and then it's gone in a day because we got so many bees. But you can take a handful of that, just put it on in a plastic bowl, put it out on a table, and just take it in at night. And they'll feed on that, because you can buy these supplements in smaller portions. You don't have to buy the big 50-pound bag or the big, I think they even sell ProSweet in a gallon.
They do sell 1 gallon.
So, and they'll get it in free shipping if it's over $120. And Manlake doesn't give me anything for this. I want you to know that. Okay, here's the secret weapon. This is a trade secret. You can't tell anybody this, okay? Just keep this to yourself. This is not any kind of sugar. This is driver. This is baker's sugar. It's not, do not use powdered sugar. It is not powdered sugar. Brown sugar is toxic, so don't even think about brown sugar. Beet sugar, sugar made from sugar beets does not have the same complex, so never use beet sugar. Always, any kind of sugar, it's pure cane. This is called driver or baker's sugar. Baker's sugar, see that? Baker's driver pure cane sugar. This is rocket fuel. This will increase the colony's temperature 10 degrees. 10 degrees in the colony. And that 10 degrees causes the queen to lay an egg in every single hole she can find. The trade secret, because all commercial beekeepers know about this. And we use a lot. We'll burn up a queen in 2 years. The queen's not gonna last more than 2 years. Because she's gonna lay again.
Can we get that local?
No. There's nowhere in town you have to order that, but you can order on Amazon all day long. Driver, this is called driver or baker's sugar. And the concentration is, let me do some math. I mean, 250 gallons, and we use 25 pounds to 250 gallons. So what's the pounds to gallons there? This is not
10. If using 25 pounds of sugar, you said?
to 250 gallons.
So it's 1
That's a
pound,
pound.
it's 1 pound of sugar for every 10 gallons.
So.
So a tenth of a
gallons,
pa- yeah.
10 gallons.
So a tenth of a pound per gallon.
Okay, so if you're gonna do 1 gallon, it's 1/10 of a pound, which is. And you have to figure that out. How many ounces is that?
About 2, about 2,
126.
yeah. 2 ounces per gallon. A little less, maybe an ounce and a half probably be
Yeah.
better.
Say that again.
Okay, so if you're doing 1 gallon of feed,
2 ounces
Of sugar,
of sugar.
I'd double that, 4 ounces.
1 gallon of water.
No, one gallon of sugar syrup. You add 4 ounces, how many,
Oh.
about a cup? Yeah, that's the half a cup, yeah, half a cup. You could even probably move into 1 cup.
You're really going rocket fuel.
Oh, we use a lot of it,
So
so
what you're saying, you make up your sugar water like 1 to 1 first and then add this on
Yeah.
top?
you add it, mix it
That's
in.
where I'm at. I was trying to mix that into water. No,
Sugar syrup is mixed up first, and then you add this on top of your sugar syrup. Add this too. So this is an additive to the syrup.
Yes.
Your syrup is already put together and then you add driver to it. So it's about 1 cup to a gallon. 1 cup of driver, yeah. Because that was the minimum. We normally I just got the whole thing. Pound egg and that's Oh, yeah, this is warm. Now, hydroxymethylfurfural will kill your bees. Hydroxymethylfurfural is a toxin that is produced when you boil sugar. Don't boil it. So keep it under, just keep it under 160 degrees.
Clears.
That's the best way to do it until it clears. And you're gonna have to heat this up. I would put the driver in the water first before you do the sugar and make sure the driver is clear. Driver takes, it's much more difficult to emulsify than sugar. And again, a lot of people don't know this. They forget about it. I'm cooking sugar for my bees and they just let it on the stove. Oh no, and it's boiling for a while. that and that's the chemical that it produces, the hydroxymethylfurfural.
After 235 degrees, right?
I would say. I think
If
putting
you
hundred
heat
and
any
eighty,
hydrocarbon, it will make HMF. It's just a matter at what rate it makes it. The hotter it gets, the quicker it makes it. You see what I'm saying? So you don't want to boil it for a long time or you'll start getting toxic levels.
and you won't have to boil it to get it clear.
Right.
Your sugar syrup will be clear before it boils. You won't ever have to boil it, and then you don't have to worry about it.
What I like to do when I make up sugar water is I boil the water, just the water, no sugar in it. Then I turn the heat off and I let it sit until it stops boiling. Then I put the sugar in. There's one big thing that helps with. Any kind of mold or bacteria that's in there that will cause your water to ferment or form mold. If you boil the water first, it kills it. So that's what I do. I just boil it and then I shut it off, let it sit a half hour or so, let it cool down into the 170, 180 range, and then I start adding sugar.
There's mud.
So
you gotta be a chemist to be doing this, you know that, don't you? Okay, but anyway, that's a trade secret, I give that to you. I'm gonna catch flack from a partner and some other people, you know how long, I don't care. But that'll literally increases the temperature of the colony 10 degrees. And it just flips the switch.
What's the difference in the sugar from just white sugar? Is there a baker here that can tell me that? Why is this sugar different?
It's refined different.
Refined
Yes,
different?
it's refined different. It acts. They use that to make like frosting and glaze.
But it's not.
Yeah, that is, and that because you can't make a like a donut glaze out of regular sugar. They use that. So, you know, the bees are Dunkin' Donut fans, you know.
Can't make it down.
Anyway, so anyway, that's, yeah, it's. Whenever they need feed, and I'll feed, like I said, once a week, depends on where they're at, what's going on, if they're. And it's indicative to what's going on. Now, I'm giving you this, some of you new beekeepers, make sure you got a lot of food. You're gonna start this regiment and you're gonna put pollen patties on there and you're gonna start feeding them. You gotta be checking on them regularly because they'll get away from you real quick. In other words, they'll starve to death because and again, the extended forecast, that can change, you know how that does, but if it stays what it's going to be, then there'll be everything coming in on its own. In 2 weeks, everything, that is scary. That's really early for this time of year. So if we get that, and it was like a 14, 15 day section of weather that's really gonna be warm. Then in March, it always does the same thing. It bumps up and then we get slammed. But if you have a frame feeder and you have everything, a pollen patty on top of that, what's gonna happen now is you're gonna have enough bees to capture, because by then, they're not gonna be a bunch of early bees, nurse bees, because normally through the progression, what happens, normally, they're just now starting to build up a little bit. And by the end of the month, you might have a pretty good cluster. And then they're gonna start laying. But if you do what I'm telling you to do, you're gonna have a workforce. That's what you have to have. Nurse bees do not forage. You're gonna have a workforce that'll capture the early flow. It's really hard to capture. And I'll tell you this year, everything's gonna be early. So it'll be talking to the farmers that I pollinate here in the valley, they're already seeing some of the trees swelling. So that means if the tree is swelling, that means the bud is starting to swell. It's not just in the dormant stage. And they're afraid because what happens is if it gets too far along and then it freezes, then they lose their crops. So FSA is going to be real happy.
Could you further explain the comment you made about, like, if you start to do this and you want to capture this flow, that then you're gonna be somewhat committed to doing the split?
Yeah, no, committed to that beehive. In other words, you can't just walk away from, I'll check you next month.
No, but earlier you had said something
Yeah,
about.
so, well, you're gonna have, at the end of the spring flow, you're gonna need to be ready to do a split.
Either that or I'm getting a phone call.
Either you will or they will.
Because they're gonna swarm on me if I
Uh-huh.
don't. So am I understanding you correctly, that really there's not a way to capture that flow without also anticipating that I'm gonna have this other.
When you build bees, you gotta be ready to do the bee thing.
Okay, all right, so if I want double the hives, okay.
Usually what happens is your bees use the spring flow to go from their winter nest.
Right,
to a
it
big-
makes sense.
So what
It
you're doing
does.
is you're coming back 6 weeks so that they use all of your stuff that you gave them to do that. So now you got a really strong colony really early, which means it wants to swarm.
So
It makes sense. it
Now-
does.
now at the beginning of March, you're looking at, and that's get a couple of really warm days. And if you have 2 boxes of bees, then you start putting supers on.
Right.
So what you would normally be doing in June, you're now doing in April. You're a month ahead.
Right.
Or even more so, this year, probably gonna be more. So I would say in March, start catching, because the spring flow is so much more than anything the farmer does. Our valley has a lot of forage on the river and on the ditch banks. And throughout the city that is not maintained. And a lot of people just look at it as a weed. And all those flowers, weeds and natural fauna and flora throw nectar. And it's really light and it's really good. And so I'm just giving you that. You're gonna be feeding them anyway because it's warmed up too quick. And so if you want to go that extra mile, now if you don't, you say, I'm just gonna try to hold them back. Well, then you just do the feeding as needed. The real kicker is when you start adding pollen, you add pollen, then you're going to, and the lighter syrup. If you don't want to, you want to just feed them, then give the 2-to-1 or the raw sugar. And then they don't build. The 2-to-1 is more of a storage, 1.5 or 1-to-1. That's more of a light syrup that stimulates nectar flow, and that stimulates the bee to start brooding. That make sense? How's your head? Yes.
Yes,
No,
yes.
I don't know.
But question on the Zoom chat, it says, do you mix the Pro Sweet with the sugar or is that already
No,
pre-mixed?
Pro Sweet's ready to go. We cut the Pro Sweet. We put 15 gallons of water to 250 gallons, so it's the
Here we go again.
250 gallons, and we throw 15 of that is water. So we do cut the Pro Sweet a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
So maybe like a cup of water to a gallon.
Yeah.
You put that driver in the Pro Suite?
Yeah. So we'll start, way we mix it, we'll start with our big open container, 250 gallons. We dump in at 15 gallons of hot water and then our driver. The driver's first thing, we mix that up, then dump the complete in there and Pro Sweet, mix it all up. That's our mixture. And we're talking about 15, 16 years of trying everything on the market to get to this concoction that works. I mean, really works. Yep.
We're gonna be doing sports earlier.
Yes. Yes. I'll have Queens in March, into March. Yeah, I have a sign up sheet for Queens.
So Jason, I would just say, if you're feeding your bees a lot of the sugar water and ready for the flow, when the flow starts, stop feeding them sugar water.
Yeah, they won't take it. They won't take it. They won't touch sugar water when the flow starts. So that's a real good indicative of what's going on outwards. And you can tell the bees are flying, if they're flying heavy, they're coming in, they're just right into the entrance, they're just flying straight in, they just barely land, going in there, that's light, they're flying light. So they're going, off, and then call in, that's heavy, means your crop's full. So I do just, once you watch them, you can tell what's going on. You see any pollen baskets full? It's on like Donkey Kong. Yeah, and I have, there was a little bit, I've seen pollen coming in, 2 days ago.
You're my hive. too.
Yeah. So the next. Super DFM, this is game changer. This thing here, instead of trying to deal with issues from behind the 8 ball and reflective, this is proactive instead of reactive, proactive, and that is Super DFM. It is designed basically for gut health, and there's a lot of people that's jumped on the bandwagon because they've seen how good it is, but this is the original, guys. Basically small bag, 10 applications. I don't know, somebody can look that up real quick on the internet, see how much that costs. Huh?
$100 for 100 feeds.
$100 for 100 feeding, so it's a
Buck
buck.
a feed.
But, and that one's 10, so that'd be, 10, 12 bucks right there. What we've used forever is Mellifera Boost. Again, that's got all the phyto minerals and nutrients. Try to read that differently, but anyway, those are the very specific gut health, get you going early. It's important to make sure if you're going to be jump starting them to add gut health. If you're going to jump start them, then they're going to need some assistance along the lines, because you are feeding them artificial nutrition. And so those things that we feed them that do not have the complete of the whole spectrum of the minerals and vitamins that come in naturally. So you got to supplement them a little bit, help them out. Any questions so far? And how many said, well, I don't really want to go, I just wanted bees.
Turn the water out and you have a bunch of different hives feeding off of that one source of sugar water.
Open feeding?
Open feeding. Does it cause problems? Does that cause robbing?
No. I don't put it right next to a hive. I'll put it out, away from it, so they'll all go to that source. And, but that's usually not the best case scenario. We do that from time to time, because if there's so much going on, and it can be some early robbing, especially you got a real strong colony that's starving and you got a fat little girl next to them, they're gonna just, hey, here's the bank. So that will deter part of that. You might have to knock down some entrances a little bit more so that the smaller hive can manage and police their own a little bit better. But usually that's not, this time of year is usually not an issue that much. It will be if you got a big, strong, hungry hive, then they'll be looking. Yep.
Is there a downside to letting a strong hive rob an empty hive? So
They get a dead out?
Got a dead out, got a bunch of.
I would say normally no, but it also depends on why it died. Let me throw this out. If it died because of pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, then it could be a problem.
The strong one was right next to it.
Yeah, well, it only takes just a handful of bees to get into some chemicals to kill that hive.
Would they really go rob it though if it had that contamination?
Yeah.
Even though it still has.
And about one hive being here and right next to the other hive, this hive could be flying half a mile that way to get something. This one could be flying 2 miles that way to get something. So that they didn't get the same feed. You're thinking, well, my strong hive, it went through the same thing that the hive that died out. That's not necessarily true.
So Have you done a necropsy on that hive, that dead hive?
I
Have you
did.
gone through it and seen why it died? Okay, yeah, just talking about, in other words, so, you know, a straightforward answer is, you know, if you know that it was a good clean hive and they died because they starved. But if they starved, then there's not gonna be that many resources, or it was just too small. But if they absconded and there's hardly any bees in that hive, they just left. Well, it could be high mite load, which is, there's not gonna be any mites left if it's been dead for a week or two, because the mites can also starve or freeze to death in our temperature, our night temperature. But if it is a frame that looks really good, I mean, it's not an old crusty frame, it doesn't have a lot of, and that is one thing that I need to really emphasize again. The bees know if there's poison on that frame, on that honeycomb. And what they've done is they've propolized. If you have any of those open or anywhere on that frame, honeycomb that has been propolized, it's usually around the top and the bottom. It's usually around this up here or down below. That's where you're gonna find they have propolized it over. They have covered it, they've sealed it with propolis. And it's really dark. It's easy to tell difference between capped honey and what you do. If you're really wondering, you take your hive tool and try to dig into it. And if it's just solid and it won't, and you can't break it off or get into that cell, that's propolized. And there's a reason why they have capped that. And the only reason why they cap honeycomb is because there's something wrong with it. It's poison. Herbicides, fungicides, pesticides, just normal thing. And so over time, that's what happens. It builds up. That residual builds up in the comb. And so if you're seeing that, the bees will telling you, I got a problem. And that some people say, well, you know, most of it's good. If I just see one cell that's been propolized, I toss it. And that's why earlier somebody brought up the fact that there has been upwards to 60% bee loss this year in the industry. 60% of bee loss in the commercial. And that's big. That's trillions and trillions of bees. And that's true. FSA is going, you know, probably gonna be the biggest year on what we call ELAPS. That's a subsidy that the government gives commercial beekeepers when they have a loss from colony collapse. And I'm talking to the FSA office here, he's saying, yeah, it's a bad year across the board. I didn't lose that many. I lost about less than 20% this year. And my partner, he was 90% loss. And the only difference between me and him, we keep our bees the same place, we go the same place, we treat the same time, we feed everything the same. The only thing different is equipment. I toss the garbage in. He's 5th generation. He's had frames that his grandpa had. And I go through it again this year, and he finally said, well, I think you're right. So this year, you know, we're investing, you know, couple $100,000 in equipment and just brand new boxes and frames. So we'll talk about that in a minute, because I'll make that available to everybody at our discount. Yeah.
When you say toxic, so like I have a few things right now, it's not every big outfits here, like they're very dark. So with them, if there's anything on it, like if there's any brood or if there's any honey, it's okay to just toss.
Okay, so if you have, and a lot of times they'll brood in that, okay, and they happen to be in the center of the box. So a way that you can still capture the brood without losing that brood is make sure your queen is in the bottom box. Take that frame of brood, put a queen excluder. So she's in the bottom. What I'll do is I'll take that top box and I'll shake all of them off. And so I know she's down below. Take every frame, I'll shake it down, and I know she's down below. Take an excluder, and then I'll take that frame as well as a couple others, I'll put it in the center right above. They'll still cover that. The nurse bees will come up and still take care of that. It'll hatch out, but the queen won't lay back in that because she can. And after that is hatched out, I take that frame out and then I can discard it. If it just has honey, just discard it because they won't use it.
How many? Let's say I have several, how many would you do them with?
All of them. Yeah, and that's what happens. See, all these old frames that you've had from, you picked it up from wherever in Nook. That's what beekeepers do. They sell the nooks and some of these beekeepers, if you got a nook from me last year, is pretty good equipment. You know, that's all. I rotate mine every 3 years. Some of you might have got my partner's stuff and I'm sorry. Anyway, so that's, you know, hatch your bees out and one thing about them old frames, they make awesome fire starters. I tell
Yes,
you, it's a campfire up there, you throw that, or if you got a fireplace, it just it smells great. Okay. So I think any other questions on build up, early build up? The main thing is if you're not gonna try to capture that spring flow, I threw that out. There's a number of you that are entertaining that. You need some more information. You didn't catch it all. If you got my number, I'll walk you through it and help you with that. Again, it's no problem. It's fairly simple. Once you have the right equipment or the right components, timing is everything, and then you continue to walk through that. You just want emergency feed, again, sugar, raw sugar, granulated, pure cane sugar. I'll stress that again, pure cane sugar. And on top of the inner cover, not under, and if you don't have an inner cover, some wax paper. Put wax paper down, you can dump that on top of the wax paper. Try not to get the granules to leak down into the hive, especially into the brood chamber. That's really important. And then you can do some emergency feeding. How are you gonna know without looking? Again, you lift it up. Hey, it's a little bit light. The next 60-degree day, be cracking the lids and look down in there. You don't have to dig in far, but just see what's going on. See how many bees you got. See if you can pull a couple frames out from the side and see if how much stores you have left. And if you got 4 or 5 frames of honey here at the end of the month, you're good. Okay. But if there is nothing left and all they got is what they're bringing in, you got to help them out immediately or they'll starve. Any other questions on feeding?
I don't either. If it lasts a certain amount of time, when should I know the crop was not do that?
I don't use them from year to year. They just, if it's not pliable and they're dried out, the bees don't eat them as well either. That's just, I try not to freeze. If I don't use it, I pitch them, I throw them. So we have tried in the past and it seems like they don't consume them nearly as quick as, because there's a lot of things. There's yeast, different ingredients that don't freeze well and last. So anyway, that's a good question. Yeah. So if you have like last year's pollen patties, and all pollen patties are not created equal. Some of them are really great, and I give you the best one on the market right now. Ultra Bee. That's a Man Lake product. Ultra Bee's got one that's really good. They include the Super DFM in their pollen patty. So does Global. Global now includes Super DFM in the pollen patty. So you got Super DFM in the pollen patty. It's one-stop shop. One shop stop.
What was it called?
That's my Lexdecia. That's me. Either that or the Dane branch. I'm not sure. Okay, we got some real good stuff coming up. So anybody else, when we go, we'll come back if we have to, but just wanted to make sure you understand. You guys will work so hard to get your bees through this time and they're flying. It's just a gut wrencher when they die, they starve to death when you're this close. You're this close to overwintering. And this is probably, if you've got them to now, most dangerous time is right now. Most dangerous time of beekeeping right now. Other than in the fall with the mites. If your mite load's high, then they're not alive right now anyway. So. Good. Let's talk about swarm. because that's probably gonna happen before our next meeting. How many are on the swarm list? If
Nobody.
you are a member, you can get on the swarm list for free. And the swarm list is free bees. Everybody likes a freebie. It's not buy one, get one, you get one, and this is bees in the trees. So there's a couple things that you need to know about swarm capture. If you've never, how many have been on the swarm list and you've captured swarms? You've already captured swarms, okay, good on you. So what this is, and Doug, help me out if I'm gonna get this right. The call will come in, we have a hotline, and the hotline is used quite a bit. Everybody in the valley knows about the hotline. You call the hotline, it's a message. Doug is the first one on the list. The person that is see this swarm, and they usually are freaking out because there's a big, massive ball of bees. And the people I've talked to, the next one on the list, and I'll talk to this young lady that she was telling me, there's a massive ball of bees. I said, well, what's the size? And that's, we usually try to get the size, and we say, is it like a basketball? Is it like a volleyball? Like a tennis ball? She goes, no, it's like a beach ball. It's huge. And so I said, send me a picture. And so we get pictures and we get information, how high it is, where it is. And so I get this picture back, and it's, little. So it's really difficult sometimes getting the right information from the person that's calling in. And that's what we'll usually ask for a picture. We'll ask for address. And then if you're on the swarm list, then your name is dialed. We call you from top to bottom, whoever's on the swarm list. Now, once you get a swarm, then your name is moved to the second list. In other words, when everybody gets a swarm, then we start all over again. But if you've already able to go get the swarm, then your name, and then we go down to the next one, we'll call you. And if you answer right away and you're available, and that's the thing, if you answer, but I'm not available, well, we just go to the next name. We don't remove you off the list, we just go to the next name.
I never remove anybody off the list. It's a little different that, so the way it works is when we get that call, if you're the next one on the list, you get the phone call. If you answer, you get the information, you tell me whether you're going or not. If you say I can't go, or if you don't answer, I mark it, and I go to the next person. We usually go through the list, and then I'll try to go back through the list the second time and start prioritizing the people that didn't get to go. But
So usually everybody gets at least one. Some get two.
so, I mean, I've had years where I've been to the list 4 times. So if you are signing up, please do everything in your power to be available, because, I'm at work usually when these are coming in, so it's, making 1 or 2 calls is not too bad, but if I had to make 6, 7, 8, 9, I've had to make 15 calls to get a hold of somebody. That's a lot of time. So
when your name is called, what I would suggest you do is you have a swarm capture equipment with you in your car or your truck or whatever your vehicle. So your swarm capture equipment is going to consist of at least, I would say, I would carry 2 deeps with frames. Now, don't use brand new frames. What you want is the older frames. So you want an old drawn comb. Those bees love the old comb. It's the smell. It's hard to hang on to them with brand new. So, but if you don't have old comb, then use whatever you have. So we'll have 2 boxes. The reason why I like 2 boxes, because I'll set one on the other, and I'll take off the top box, I'll take 4 or 5 out of the center. Take those frames out, so those bees have somewhere to drop into, okay? And they drop in, they'll be able to go down to the second box. If it's, most of the time it's gonna be in a tree or a bush. So therefore, something that you're gonna need is a tarp. So I get a blue tarp, get a 10 by 10, 8 by 10, usually fine. Put that blue tarp, let's say, okay, here is swarm is in the tree right there. I can even reach up and grab the bottom limb, so I don't have to have a ladder. A lot of people carry a step ladder with them too. If you might need a step ladder, especially, and that's why we try to get all the information. I've had swarms that they were 30 feet in the air, and that's a hard one, and I'll tell you how we do that one here in a minute. The one you can just grab a hold of, you try to put your tarp down. Because when you shake those bees, if they fall, they're not all gonna fall in the box, they're gonna fall on the outside. Eventually, they're gonna crawl, if you get the queen, they'll start coming back in. Start coming back in, and all those workers, because that queen mandibular pheromone is very powerful. And all the bees can know where that queen is, and you get her in the box, then they will all start migrating to the box. But you want to try to gauge it where it's up and down. Know this though, when you shake it and the tree doesn't go straight down, it goes at an angle, it bends like this. So you thought you was right above it, and most of it ends up, see, here's the trunk of the tree, limbs coming off this one. When you shake it, a lot of them are going to be shy because you're bringing it down at an angle, see? It's not straight down, that limb comes down at an angle. So boom, a lot of them are on this side. So what I do is I find where it's straight up and down and hitch in and cheat a little bit towards the trunk. Now, grab up there, and here's the motion of shaking that swarm. And you want to try to get it, if it's way up there, there's a couple of different things you want to do. But if it's only, 4 or 5 feet, it's really going to be an easy catch. I grab that limb, I push up just a little bit, and they come down and up again. That motion there, up, boom, like that, up, boom. And sometimes you have to do it a couple times, but usually that first shake, the mass part of the bees are coming down. That's the time you said to yourself, should have put my veil on. Sounds like experience, okay. Now, if you get the queen, now the first swarm out of the colony is going to be the old queen. She's mated. She doesn't fly real well. She's just happy to be somewhere. And you get her, that's good. It's the best case scenario. She's 9 times out of 10 going to stay in that box. So they're in there. You might have to shake that 2 or 3 times because all the bees that fly out, well, they're going to go back up to that and there'll be little cluster. The first one was big, the second one, shake that again down. Then you take your frames that you took out because they're now migrating to that bottom, but there's still a bunch of bees. Don't just drop them in there. Very carefully drop them in. So you're not squishing bees between the 2 boxes. And you get your frames in there and they will start fanning out until you get all your frames back in. Sometimes I'll even leave a couple frames out, but if I got them all in and they're doing well, I'll take my lid now. I won't close them up just yet. I'll leave that lid off. I'll leave a little bit of space, especially if there's wherever the majority of bees are on the ground. It's really easy to see because I got my tarp. If I didn't have my tarp and they're in the grass, it takes a lot longer for them to start marching. But if they're, and even on the ground, there's a pile of bees here, you can very gently get underneath them, very gently, and pick up that cluster of bees, set them back in the box. Don't grab them like come here. Just do that, set them in there, and then kind of realize, should have grabbed my gloves too. Now, and if you got the queen, and she's not a virgin queen, sometimes that virgin queen, gone. Then I'll back on the tree again. What's the deal? And then you got to shake and lock it down. But if it's the old queen, she's in there, they're all going to go in. You're not going to get them all, especially the big ones. You're going to get 99% of them. There's still some that are going to be, and their scouts are going, and even foragers are going in a big swarm. And so those scouts are coming back and they're saying, hey, where'd everybody go? And it takes a while for them to get down. Sometimes you're there for an hour, sometimes you're there for a couple hours before you get them all in the box. And then when you do, you lock them down. Now, what I like to do is these lids here, there's no opening for them to escape. And that's what I mean by locking them down. I will get a ratchet strap. And so there's the 2 boxes that I have. I'll put that ratchet strap. In fact, let me show you that. That's off now.
Do you have a bottom board?
I use a lid. I use 2 lids. There are boards very specifically made for swarm capture that are vented, and that's a good idea, especially when it starts heating up. Is you can melt the whole thing, especially if it's a big colony that you capture. So again, that's why I don't use a bottom board. Basically because they, whenever I'm transporting them, I've hauling a swarm and on a bottom board and look out my rear view mirror, my truck, and they all bearded on the side of the box. And soon as I stopped at the stoplight, they all took off again. So I'm driving around. Anyway, so this is what it looked like. There's 2 boxes there, that's that swarm. After they're done marching in, throw that down and I'll get a ratchet strap and I'll strap this whole thing together. And I just pick it up, slide it in, or the car or whatever, and then you take it to your apiary. Now, some people don't release them right away. Some people will. And then that's where, if you have a bottom board with mesh on it, where you can lock them down, they can still vent, because that's important. If you're just going to do the 2 lid, you got to put them on something that they can vent. Okay. So you're going to set this, you pick this up, and I'm going to set this on, I'll leave the lid there and I'll set it on my bottom board, or pallet, whatever you're doing. And captured the swarm that's at least 2 miles away from your house, usually you're good. If you're within that 2-mile radius of where you captured that, they already know that area. And a lot of times you have a greater percentage of them leaving and not staying. But if your equipment is, they get some older comb, and that's the key. If you have nothing but brand new comb in there, all blanks, and there's no drawn comb, it's gonna be really hard to hang on to them. They gotta have a reason to wanna stay. So you can feed them. And if you put a feeder in there or something where they have something that is gonna entice them, hey, I wanna hang out here, this is good. That's why use drawn comb for your swarm boxes. Yeah.
And if you really want to lock them in there, put a frame of open brood in there, open brood. Because they
From
won't
another
leave
hive.
open brood.
From
From
one of
another
your
hive.
hive, get it? So larvae. And the nurse bees, that are flying, they will stay to cover, and that does hang on. So ones that are way up there, and I'm not gonna be a tree trimmer and Tarzan. The older you get, the smarter you get. And they're only bees. So I will get a rope, I'll tie a weight, like a rock on one end, and I'll throw it way up over the limb. Try not to hit the swarm. That makes a mess. And you throw that up on, so the swarm's here, the trunk's here, I'll throw it up on this side of the swarm. That rock will go over, I'll lower that rock down, and so I have both ends of that rope. And it doesn't have to be, it can be just like a 1/2 inch, nylon rope, really easy to handle. Try to get it as close to that swarm and do the same thing. I can just jerk it down like that, boom. Now, there's another tool that I like to use, and that is, especially if it's ones that I can grab real easy. If it is a little tree and the customer or the landowner, the homeowner, it's their tree, I'll ask them, would you be okay if I cut a couple of those limbs? If it's all right with you, it's easier to cut the limb than to shake them. And if they say yes, and tell them, well, what limbs you're gonna cut. Like most of them say, yeah, it's no problem. And so what I'll do is instead of shaking them, what happens, it's a lot easier, is I'll cut that limb, especially because a tree will have 2 or 3 limbs, and that swarm will be on like 2 or 3 limbs of that branch. Okay, and so it's really hard that you can't cut the whole, you want to cut, I'll cut one of those limbs and I'll set it right down on top. I won't shake it, I'll just set it down on top real gently. And the pruners that you need to use is ratchet pruners. Don't get the ones that the bypass shears that pop it when you, but the ratchet ones that just go a little bit at a time. When it finally snips, it doesn't jerk, it doesn't pop. And so you might get that whole limb. If it's just like an inch limb, you get the whole limb, and I set that whole swarm on top. And that's by far the best way. They'll immediately just drop down because they don't recognize it has been disturbed as much. When I first roll in and I'll look at the swarm, I look at it real close. If it's close enough where I can see it, I'll look at it because there have been times I have spotted the queen on the swarm. And I'll just grab her, just a little pile, just real gently, just about like that. Drop her in. And then then it's so much easier when you get the queen. Every swarm is different. We've had during swarm season, and he can throw up on the screen the different areas of town. A lot of those swarms on swarm call are out of my yards. And we don't get them all. It's hard to get them all. Tyler Tobias was helping me. He's part of the club. In one of my yards, we had 5 in one day out of the same yard at the same time. And one massive one it was massive. It's probably a 30,000. Big, beach ball, right? A big ball of bees. That was that beach ball, okay? And it's probably good. And it was low. It was real low. It was like low enough to where I had to take one of the boxes off, slide the box underneath this tree, and it just dropped in. I was like, piece of cake. And this is so easy. And it was massive. I mean, 2 boxes, and it probably should have had 3 boxes, and they were just, but I said, well, let's leave this one. We just caught 2 other swarms, and we take it to another yard that's about 2 miles away. We take it to this, and we get over there, and that yard was swarming, and so we grabbed 2 swarms out of that one, and we're gonna head back to the original one. And I left this one. I left that big one. I left that big one right there. Said, well, they hadn't all settled in. Within an hour, they were in the box. Big swarm in the box. We get back. They're all off the side. Great, they're all in. We can take this one now. Look down in there. They're gone. So you never. I give that story because you gotta once you get your swarm, you gotta take care of them right away. So you get the call. And when you get the call, because that swarm may stay on that tree for a day. I've seen them stay for a couple of days. But what happens is when they leave the hive, they go to a tree or they go to branch or the side of the fence. That's called a bivouac. In that bivouac, they'll send out scouts. And those scouts will go try to find the best location for their next home. And that scout will come back. Now, this is the amazing thing about these little girls. That scout will do a waggle dance on the outside of that swarm. And that communicates direction, location within 6 inches, up to 5 miles away. Where it's at, how good it is, and how emphatic she dances depends on what happens next. If she is emphatic and she does that dance at least 3 times, then they'll send other scouts. And those scouts will go to that same location. And when they come back, if they do that and they all agree, they'll dance, saying, yeah, that's the location, they're gone. I mean, they're gone. And I've seen them, And because every year we go through this, a lot of swarms, we try to do their splits, we try to take our swarms, but there's always a number that we miss. And so every year, that'll be there. I've seen them hanging out for a day, come back, they're there next day. We're gonna get to them. We finally get to them at a day and a half, almost 2 days, and they're still there. And like that one, I was telling you, that huge one, that was 10 minutes. They're gone.
I've had people on the phone call me and they say, oh, yeah, it's out there. I just walked in to call you. And they have them go back out and they go, it's gone. So, like, so we try to do our best to screen it, but honeybees have a very good press agent. The public thinks anything that's small, yellowish and black is a bee.
Yes.
So I think very many calls at educating the difference between honeybees and bumblebees and wasps and.
A lot of yellow jackets. We get a lot of yellow. Yeah. But so if you want to be on, just a few things that you need for swarm collection. And if you just have them in your vehicle, that way, wherever you get that call, you don't have to go collect all your gear. You can just go, and the sooner you get there, the chances are that you'll get, and the swarm is usually the best bees that you'll have that year. Here's why. When they're swarming, there's something that triggers in their, not just in their psyche, but in that whole hive triggers the sense that, hey, we've got to go build a brand new place. So before they go, they'll fill their crop with all the resources that they need. So they are ready to build, and a swarm will build, will fill out frames 2 to 1 than a regular colony. They will build comb like nobody's business. So if I got a swarm and I need a bunch of comb that I need to be built, well, they're going into a couple empty boxes and they'll fill it up. So they're good bees. They're usually very healthy bees and they're free. So if you're not on the swarm list, just jump on there. We'd love to help you out with that. So anybody, and you can, and it's not like you have to take that one. You get a call, hey, it's way up in the tree. No, I can't do that. And that's okay. Just stand on the list. We'll get you the next time around. But if those of you say, well, sometimes they're on a fence. Some of the easiest ones are just hanging on a fence, and you just very easy to just slide them right into a box. Or a tree or a little bush, a shrub. A lot of times it's even on the ground. We had one in the airport on one of the airport signs.
Look on the website or there's one of the pictures we included with the. It's the most awesome picture I think we've seen. It's Heidi, one of our former secretary. She's out there because she was an airport employee, so that's why she got that one, because otherwise you'd have gone through all kinds of rigmarole to get out there. But she's out there collecting it. You can see bees flying and you can see an airplane taking off. It's one of the best swarm pictures I've ever seen.
You have that big one.
Yeah.
So, and if you are a first time one and you're nervous about it, just let me know. There's several people on the list that are there multiple times. I know which person I can usually reach out to that's, willing to go out and give you a hand.
Yeah, so you got help. Worst case scenario is let's squish bees.
You got the form on
The form will be coming out, the link will be coming out in the newsletter. I'll make sure that Brenda's got it, so we'll get that in the newsletters.
Yeah.
I was thinking, so when do the wasps start?
Right now.
Yeah, so we can put our taps out.
Yes. Thank you. I hadn't even thought of that. So yellow jacket wasp, the only yellow jacket wasp that is alive right now is the queens. So if you can catch the queens right now in your traps, you can decimate the yellow jacket problem of your house. But you got to do it now. You got to put out your traps now. No, yeah, because the ones that yellow jackets that you'll catch now is the queens.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yep.
Thank you. That's awesome. So you get those Home Depot, Lowe's, any of Ace Hardware, True Value, they all have Walmart, they all have wasp traps.
One of the things I saw this week, I'm not a season keeper. I've been doing this for maybe 3 years now. But a friend had a hive that was dead. And she wanted to take the boxes. So I went to look at it, I opened it up, and it had a ton of wax moths. Tons and tons of their little casings. And, you know, my thought, you know, I knew that we would put the frames that you were concerned about in the freezer, you know, for a certain amount of time in order to kill the larvae. And so I thought, oh, well, a couple of weeks ago, we got those single digits. I doubt they're alive, you know, but I broke some of them open and they were actually hatching. They were little wiggly, they were alive inside that box. So I stuck them inside dry ice to.
Take the frames out of the box and separate the frames.
Because otherwise, inside the box, they were warmer, they must have.
Really, the frames, you can pop out the old foundation, because if it's been stripped, you don't want it anyway. Because it doesn't have any wax on there, so you need different foundation, unless you're gonna have them draw out their own foundation, and then there's, you know, you do starters, but I would suggest that, and then scrape the boxes. Oh, yeah, it's amazing where them, and that's, yeah.
I just use a putty knife. You go in and scrape all that out of there. Pretty quick.
But it was like right where the foundation plastic part goes into the frame, there's one little group there that was just wide enough, and there were a ton up there. If I had pushed that frame down and looked.
So that's why I popped that old foundation out anyway, and take the hive tool, the end of the hive tool, scrape out the grooves, top and bottom. Even under the ears of the top bar, where the side of the frame comes into the top bar, they're in there too. So it's just, I hate wax moth.
I know, that's.
Very good. Got anything on the swarm catch?
Nope, just said, just don't be scared of it. And if you need some help, just let him know that somebody come help you for your first one. It's not a big deal.
A swarm is probably the most docile of all the different. Because they don't have a hive to defend. So you'll see pictures online of people just grabbing that swarm with their hands, bare hands, and taking it over and dropping it in. And they do that just for, you know, clicks, I guess. But you can do that. Got a call from a dentist. The Verizon wireless store is off of 25 and the business loop. There's a big dentist office there. So, hey, got a swarm, so I'm coming to get it. And I go in there and say, it's because it's fairly low. I said, can I cut a branch? Oh, no, that's an ornamental tree. So I didn't even want to shake it to break a branch or nothing. So I literally took that whole swarm, which is a pretty good swarm, you know, one ball at a time, and just went and walked up the ladder and carried down one ball at a time. And I could tell when I got the queen. So immediately got the queen, and they quit flying out of the box, so. Stay there, you know. So that's the thing, but normally nobody cares if you cut a couple branches or you shake their tree. They're just happy to have those bees out of there because they're petrified. Okay, very good. I have lists up here if you want woodenware, if you want nooks or queens, we're gonna be selling. And anyway, I think that's. Oh. It's time to also, when you're in there, to change out your oxalic acid strips. I will have them available next meeting, okay, for sale, just my cost. I think it's $2 a hive, so 4 strips that'll be 50 cents a piece.
And your cost is less than.
Thanks.
Find something.